well, I think it's time to get started. Welcome and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the DeKalb County Community Foundation Annual Grant Seekers Workshop. My name is Tiffany McQueen Lewis, and I'm proud to serve as the Grants Director for the DeKalb County Community Foundation. Really happy to be here with you today. I wish that we could be together in person. In fact, I was looking back at the notes from last year, and I was directing people to where the bathroom was and where the coffee was, and it just was such a stark reminder of how different things are this year. But we're happy that you could join us this morning. We've usually this is a 2-hour presentation, but we don't want to contribute to anyone's Zoom fatigue, and so we wanted to condense this to 1 hour. So it's going to be quite a bit of information that we'll be covering in this 1 power hour, we're calling it. But we promise that all the information is available. Most of it is available online. We're going to be recording this session, and we'll be sharing the recording after the conclusion of the session. And we certainly encourage questions throughout the presentation today. So we are, and we'll also be sharing the contact information of my colleagues who will be presenting throughout today's presentation. We are going to be covering a couple things today. We're going to give you a high-level overview of the Community Foundation. We're going to be going over, and in greater detail some than others, but some of the grant-making programs and initiatives at the foundation with a specific focus on the Community Needs Grants Program. We're going to be demonstrating how to access the application, how and where to access the application, and also demonstrating and going through a couple of the components of the application that our applicants sometimes find difficult, confusing, or even intimidating, to hopefully remove some of that intimidation. And then, of course, we will leave time for questions and answers. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. I'm sure you know the drill here. We would love for you to use the chat feature, the Q&A feature, to ask any questions, to make any comments, and even to introduce yourself, which we absolutely do encourage. Mark will be answering questions throughout as he's able to, but there will be time at the end for question and answers, and we will be sticking around after the conclusion of the workshop for any outstanding questions that we were not able to get to. Again, the slides will be sent afterwards, along with a recording of the presentation and a brief survey that we will ask you to complete. So before we dive in, we'd love to know who is with us today, who is in the room. And so Mark is going to launch a quick poll. And if you could answer these questions, let us know what type of organization you represent and what your role is within your organization or agency. Just take a couple more seconds. All right, looks like we've got strong showing from our nonprofits today. Health and Human Service nonprofits today, 59%. We've got some arts and culture organization, animal or environment welfare. We've got public sector agencies here today, school district, and other. If you're other, please do put in the chat who you are representing today. And I'm going to see here, what is your role? So we've got primarily executive directors here, some program staff, some development staff, some finance department, and at least a board member. So welcome to all of you. I am a former executive director and program director and development director. I've worn a lot of different hats in the nonprofit sector. So I'm with you in solidarity, understanding the role that you play, some of the challenges I'm sure you have uniquely faced this year. And so we hope this presentation will be helpful and useful and a good use of your time as you think about how you can access some of the wonderful grant programs and initiatives at the Community Foundation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful leader, our Executive Director, Dan Templin, who's going to give you an overview of the Community Foundation. Give me one second.
Thank you. Thanks, Tiffany.
Well, I thought I was going to turn over to you, Dan. Give me one second. It's not going to the next slide. Here we go.
That's okay. I'll start talking anyway. So welcome, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. Just want to spend a couple of minutes kind of setting the context for this Grant Seekers Workshop and and why we issue grants and award grants and who we are as an organization. Like all of you that are nonprofit 501c3 organizations in this meeting, the Community Foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that's mission driven. So our mission is to enhance the quality of life in DeKalb County by proactively addressing community needs and expanding, managing, and distributing philanthropic resources. It's kind of a mouthful, but really the core of what we're all about is focusing on serving all of DeKalb County, focusing on quality of life in various facets and domains of life, and being as proactive as we can about really trying to move the needle on certain needs and issues. We do that through community philanthropy, which really engages donors of all interest areas and sizes to be able to start funds, start endowed funds. We specialize in endowed funds, but also sometimes serve as a resource for pass-through dollars that help donors, connecting donors to causes and organizations that are important to them. So we take in those dollars and distribute them in meaningful ways and meaningful areas to partner organizations like you, who are boots on the ground doing excellent work out in the community to serve the needs of people and animals and the environment in the county as a whole. So we're all here. I want to just go to the next slide and underscore the fact that we're all here, every one of us, thanks to Charlie and Mary Roberts. In 1993, they converted their family foundation, their private family foundation, to create the DeKalb County Community Foundation. And they did that. They were a couple that was in leadership in the ag, in DeKalb Ag, are very successful, but also very humble, very generous people who supported a wide range of organizations and causes throughout DeKalb County. And so they started hearing about these community foundations as a resource for establishing permanent endowed charitable funds, giving donors a wide range of options for how they want to support quality of life issues in the community. So they converted their family foundation, which was valued at $3.6 million at the time. So this is funny math, right? This is kind of philanthropy math. So that $3.6 million, 27 years later, we've distributed over $35 million in grants and scholarships throughout DeKalb County and in the region. So, and we're currently have assets that we're managing at about $60 million. So the Roberts family really served as a catalyst to get the foundation started, to be able to attract other donors who establish funds and give through us to support the things they care about in the community. In 2020 alone, we've distributed over $3 million in grants and scholarships. So this is really a testimony to the generosity of DeKalb County and the privilege that we have, the honor that we have as staff and our board to be stewards of these assets and to be able to distribute them effectively. So just a final piece of this, because many people don't really realize, what's under the surface of the iceberg here. Often we're known for our grant making, but there's lots of activity that underscores what we're all about and what ends up being externally focused. So we manage, as I said, a number of different kinds of charitable funds. And this is just a listing of the types of funds that donors can establish with us. And they all have a different mechanism for how their purpose and how they're distributed. And we like to think of them as kind of rooms in a home. We all have different rooms in whatever home we call our home, and they're different sizes and they have a different purpose. And so in a similar way, these funds are different size funds and they serve a slightly different purpose depending on how the donor established them. What I want to just highlight quickly is bottom left-hand corner, community impact funds. So those are undesignated endowed funds that donors have established with us over the years. In fact, Charlie and Mary Roberts and their $3.6 million lead gift, that essentially created the very first fund at the foundation, the DeKalb County Community Endowment Fund, which is a community impact fund, an undesignated fund. Those are dollars, the grant dollars that come out of that endowment are utilized by our board to respond to needs and opportunities throughout DeKalb County. So the Community Needs Grant Program, which we're highlighting here, but we'll talk about other grant programs this morning, is really driven by grant distribution, by grant dollars that come out of community impact funds. So we're often trying to just make sure donors are aware of that and realize that the more those funds grow, the more dollars our organization can distribute throughout DeKalb County to support a wide range of causes and needs and issues. So I invite you to reach out to me at any time if you have questions. Happy to. I'm kind of on the donor services side of the house here, working with donors to establish funds and managing some of those resources. So happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks again for joining us this morning. I hope you find this to be a very informative and inspiring hour of your time. I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Well, so now that we've set the context for how the foundation got started and how it's grown since its establishment over 25 years ago, let's dive into some of the grant programs that the foundation is able to utilize to help support the community and to help fulfill our mission, as Dan said, which is really to enhance the quality of life for the residents of DeKalb County. And we know that we can't do this alone. We know that we enhance the quality of life of the residents of DeKalb County through you, through the nonprofits and the public sector agencies throughout the county. So you probably are most familiar with our Community Needs Grants program and maybe even our Farney or Wurlitzer Foundation grants program, but we just wanted to also make sure you are aware of the variety of grant programs and community initiatives and leadership initiatives that are available at the foundation. So you see a pretty exhaustive list here. We're going to focus for the most part today on the grant programs, and those are more what we consider responsive grant programs, where you submit an application, our committee reviews the application against a set of criteria, makes decisions, and notifies you. So those are the Promise Grants, the Wurlitzer Grants, the YEP Grants, the Community Needs Grants, and Emergency Grants, and we'll go into detail on those today. We also have some other initiatives that many foundations across the country are starting to invest more time and resources and human capital, because and that's really in the area of community initiatives and community engagement and really community leadership. These are areas where we identify issues and causes throughout the community that have really risen to the top as issues that we feel are important, that are having an impact on residents within the community, where we feel we can somehow play a role, and that role will vary and look different based on the initiative. And we won't go into those today. We did in previous grant workshops, but we felt like, given that we wanted to make this a shorter presentation today, we just want to mention them to you and draw your attention to them. Of course, you're familiar with DCMP, and that one sort of is an initiative that touches all aspects of the foundation. And many of you, I'm sure, have interacted with DCMP in one way or another. But there are other initiatives. We have economic development grants that are given out to different communities within DeKalb County, both on the design side and the implementation side, to help build and really develop, economic opportunity within the county. We have land use grants. We have kindergarten readiness, which is some of you, I saw that at least one school is represented here, and we're putting together toolkits and kindergarten readiness toolkits, and really engaged with the Regional Office of Education and educators throughout the county to help increase the level of readiness of students who are entering kindergarten. We have essential skills, which are videos that have just been created to help build life skills and practical skills, and we're launching those and piloting those videos with middle schools throughout the county. So Terry Sparks, who is our community engagement director, oversees all of these different initiatives. Information about them is also available on our website. We encourage you to take a look at those, because it really does speak to the comprehensiveness of the Community Foundation and the ways that we are interacting with the residents throughout the county. So before we go to the next slide, I'm just curious, we've already seen who's on the call, but love to see how those of you who are on the call, looks like we have at least 29 participants, which is great. How have you interacted with some of the grant programs in the past? And so Mark is going to launch another poll. We want to know, which of these grant programs have you applied to? And have you ever been the recipient of a grant from the DeKalb County Community Foundation? couple more minutes and we will release the results. Okay, not surprising, but good to see that at least somebody on the call has applied to at least all of our grant programs. So 93% of you have applied for a community needs grant. Looks like next in line is emergency grants, which we set aside a certain amount. We'll talk about that later, but we're happy to see that you're taking advantage of that really important resource that the foundation offers. We've got promise grants and YEP grants, which we'll talk about later, that have a little bit more of a nuanced and unique target audience that they focus on. And then we have the Farniar Wurlitzer Foundation grants, which of course focuses on music and music education programs. So that's wonderful. I'm glad to see that all of you have, or some of you, at least one of you, has interacted with all of our grant programs. And some, Mark, can you show that again? I didn't get to see how many have been the recipient of a grant. Okay, so 87% of you, great. Well, good. So we're happy to have you come and join us today to learn, any new initiatives that we have and ways that you can continue to sort of put your best foot forward as you're applying for grants at the Community Foundation. So again, we're super excited to have you here today. Glad that, many of you have interacted with our foundation in some way, shape, or form. And so now we're gonna, before we dive into some of the specifics of the grant programs, there are a couple things we wanted to mention. Let's see, here we go. Okay. So while all the grant programs that you just saw there have many of them have different guidelines, different timelines, in some cases, different applications, different requirements, different audiences, and different purposes. But there are some commonalities across all of our grant programs that we wanted to make sure we started off with and covering. All of the applicants and the applications must be for a charitable purpose or provide a clear public benefit to the residents of DeKalb County. And we specifically want to mention that because we do have organizations that aren't geographically or physically based here in DeKalb County, and that's okay. We certainly entertain applications where organizations aren't based in DeKalb County, but we recently beefed up our guidelines to emphasize that if you're not based in DeKalb County, you do have to be providing services that are benefiting the residents of DeKalb County, and you have to have some local presence. And so that can be in the form of a local advisory committee, local board or local board member or members, local staff, or even a local office. But certainly the portion of the grant that you're applying for from the Community Foundation needs to be going to the residents of DeKalb County. Second, you must be either a recognized nonprofit or governmental entity. And how do we verify that? We use GuideStar as a mechanism to verify that particularly nonprofits have a valid federal tax ID number, so that you're a valid 501c3, you have a valid federal tax ID number. We did have a couple of situations where there was some glitch in the system and some paperwork discrepancies, and so a particular organization popped up as not being valid, as having a current federal EIN number, but they were able to provide documentation that was being rectified and remedied, and so we were able to accept that documentation and allow that application to go forward. But in most cases, you either need to be a recognized nonprofit or a recognized governmental entity. We do provide grants to churches or religious groups, but there must be a clear community benefit. So the resources, the project, or the program can't benefit necessarily the members of the congregation, but if there is a community sort of community focus of your church, for instance, Westminster Church has a food pantry. Essentially, they provide food for residents of the Annie Glidden North Community Project, and so we've provided grants to them before. So as long as you can demonstrate that the program or project has a wider community benefit, then churches and religious groups are eligible to apply. We often get the question, when will I hear back after an application is submitted? And so the general rule of thumb is that decisions are typically made around 2 months after the grant application deadline. So in the case of community needs grants, our spring grants are currently open. The deadline is March 1st. And so typically you would hear back in sometime in May. And then finally, we do have a non-discrimination policy, as most agencies do, and so all applicants must adhere to our non-discrimination policy. That policy is listed on all of our guidelines as well as on our applications. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Ben Bingle, who is the director of the DeKalb County Nonprofit Partnership.
Thank you, Tiffany. And good morning, everyone. As Tiffany said, my name is Ben Bingle, the director of DCMP. And I just want to provide a kind of a high-level overview of DCMP and the work that we do. On the next slide, please. We're a membership-based program of the DeKalb County Community Foundation, and in 2020, we had over 150 members who joined DCMP and became part of this network. I know many of you on the call are DCMP members, so you're pretty familiar with the work that we do, but those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with what we do, this is going to be very high level, but I want you to know that we're right in the middle of our 2021 membership drive. And so if you'd like to be involved with DCMP, if this resonates with you, we encourage you to check out our website, and you can actually become a member today and get involved right away. Although we're a program of the Community Foundation, we do have our own mission statement, our own steering committee and strategic plan, but it all aligns with the Community Foundation. Our mission is to strengthen the nonprofit sector through leadership, professional development, and collaboration. And on the next slide, you'll see a little bit more about the work that we do. We work with nonprofit organizations and others to collectively strengthen the sector in DeKalb County. We do that in a variety of different ways. We offer a lot of free trainings and professional development, webinars just like this one, and on topics ranging from strategic planning to fundraising, to marketing and promotion, and everything in between. We also have an annual conference called Nonprofit Day that we offer every summer. We have a variety of different networking and kind of small group opportunities to build communities of practice around specific topics like digital marketing, and we offer leadership lunches every month. And beyond that, we offer a number of different programs, and that's really what I want to speak with you about today. And those are Give DeKalb County, our microgrant program, and our internship program. Give DeKalb County is a 24-hour annual philanthropic event. This year, that's going to be held on May 6th, 2021. And this has been an excellent opportunity for DCMP members to come together to raise funds collaboratively and to also raise awareness about the nonprofit sector. It's a great way for donors to get involved as well. So since 2014, we began offering this, over $3.7 million has been raised. And just last year alone, over $1.2 million was raised from 7,534 donations. So we get a lot of donors involved in this day of philanthropy, and just a great way to shine a light on the nonprofit sector. During the 24-hour event, donors can make those gifts through our website, givedekalbcounty.org. Now, if you visit that link right now, you'll go to last year's website, but just so you're all aware, we're ready to launch the 2021 Giving Day website in about 2 weeks. We also have a kind of a walk-in component when times are normal, and we can host an event at the Community Foundation so people can come in and give by check. Last year, we offered a mail-in donation component for those that prefer to give by check, and we'll be sharing more information about that very soon for what that looks like for 2021. But these donations that are made through Give DeKalb County pass through the Community Foundation. And so Dan mentioned earlier when you had the house graphic up there, we have pass-through funds, and with Give DeKalb County, those dollars do pass through the foundation, and then they're distributed to the participating organizations as grants. We add in a percentage of the bonus pool, which is another fun element of Give DeKalb County. And there's a lot more information that you can learn about this by visiting our website and potentially, attending one of our upcoming webinars about the Giving Day. Our first one is going to be on February 4th. To participate in this, you have to be a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's located in or serving DeKalb County. You must be legally registered to fundraise in Illinois, and you have to be a DCMP member by March 1st to participate. The next grant program I wanted to talk to you about is our professional development microgrant program. And so we recognize that we can't provide all of the professional development that you and your volunteers and your board might need. And so that's where this program comes from. And we're really fortunate to have the sponsorship of First Midwest Bank, which allows DCMP members to apply for grants up to $250 to help offset professional development expenses. So maybe attending a virtual conference, or a webinar series, or maybe purchasing workbooks, toolkits, you name it, as long as it applies to the professional growth of those on your team. We have a short application available on our website, and we really tried to streamline this and do that through limited reporting, a quick turnaround process. We do offer this on a rolling basis, and so you can apply at any time, but you can only apply for one micro grant over a 12-month period. Again, this is an exclusive member benefit for those that are part of DCMP. The final grant program that I want to talk to you about is our internship program. And this has been a tremendous partnership between DCMP, Northern Illinois University, and the Roberts Family Foundation. Since this program started in 2014, we've placed over 200 undergraduate interns with over 50 different DCMP members. And those interns have combined to perform over 24,000 hours of service in DeKalb County. We treat this as a grant program because through the generosity of the Roberts Family Foundation, we're able to offer $575 grants to the participating organizations. And those dollars are then passed on to the interns in the form of a stipend. So this is based on a semester schedule. And so we open the application in late fall and in kind of late spring each year. And you must be a DCMP member to participate in this one as well. But it's really a fantastic way to build the capacity of your organization and to provide some excellent experience for those students at Northern Illinois University. You can learn more about all of these programs on our website, dcmp.org, or if you have specific questions, you can always feel free to contact me at ben@dekalbccf.org. Thanks again for your time today, and I'll put some of these links in the chat.
Thank you so much, Ben. That was really great. And I just love partnering with you and DCMP and all of the wonderful programs and initiatives and just the quality of them. I think we probably take for granted how unique of a partnership this is, and the fact that you are, that the Community Foundation and DCMP are able to work so closely together. And we're able to provide such important initiatives for our grant partners and organizations. So thank you for being here. And we're going to turn it now over to Mark, who's going to talk about YEP grants.
Hi there, folks. I'm Mark Hooks, the Grants and Community Initiatives Manager here at the Foundation. First, I'm going to talk to you about YEP grants. So basically, what is YEP? YEP is a youth program at the Foundation that has high school students in its membership. And what it does is it basically teaches high school students about philanthropy, gives them a better understanding of the needs and opportunities in the community, gives them awareness of nonprofits, and empowers them to make change in the community via the grants and also their outreach events. The group meets about once a month during the school year, and at the end of the school year awards grants, which is usually around $12,000 in grants. Right now we're meeting strictly online because of the pandemic. Before we were meeting, and we hope to continue to meet in a hybrid format but usually we meet in our freight room, which you can kind of see some of the pictures of all those people gathered up there. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So what does YEP do? One of the things that they do is they lead YEP grants. So for the YEP grants, they're usually requests, in the $2,000 range, not to be over $2,500. They are due February 1st, so that is coming up. That is open right now. If you have a youth related program, then we definitely encourage you to apply. And like I said, the GEP grants are for the youth, and it's also decided by the youth. So allocation comes up in April every year, and that's strictly decided by YEP members. Noah and I are the staff advisors, and we also have a board advisor, but we provide guidance and direction and structure, but it is a youth-led program. We do have an executive committee made up of youth high school students. So it is a youth, completely youth program. You want to go to the next slide? So for a YEP grant, just some of the requirements, it must have a youth impact. So obviously we want to show the youth the issues of youth in the community. And so we want to solve those problems. And one of those things that we really want to focus on is the 40 developmental assets. If you haven't heard about that, it's basically to help young children grow up healthy, caring, and responsible. And there's 40 assets that they need to tick off all those boxes to grow up that way. And so we're looking to solve problems that help encourage those 40 development assets. You want to go to the next slide? So a really great example, last year, AdventureWorks applied for a YEP grant for $1,238, and they were fully funded. And they used that for a Healing Spaces program, which is a new youth therapy space for them. This provides them a new opportunity to help youth and provide counseling to youth in kind of an adventure type of way, even inside. So really great program. As you can see, it helped, it had a youth benefit of 500 participants. So smaller dollar amount, but big impact. So we really like, that's what YEP grants really like to have, is a big impact for a small dollar amount. You want to go to the next one? And speaking of big impact for smaller amount, Promise Grants is another grant that we offer. It's the deadline is in November. If you want to go to the next slide. The deadline is in November. We're planning on awarding about $3,500, a little bit more than that this year in 2021. And it's made up of two funds, the Promise Fund and the Weigel Family Early Childhood Literacy Fund. And basically what this does is we want to inspire the community to build leadership skills, empower underserved populations, as well as serve a literacy component in there. So if you have any projects that you're working on that serve either of those functions, then that's definitely something to consider. And we do have really great impacts with those. This year, we were just blown away by the applications that we got, that they were asking for $750, but the impact was incredible. So again, those projects are, smaller dollar amount, but huge impact, and really can make a large difference in our community. Next up, we have the Wurlitzer Foundation Fund grants. Just kind of a reminder, the Farnier Wurlitzer Corporation was started in DeKalb County, and that's where their headquarters used to be. Off of that became a foundation to fund music education throughout the county. Now, since it's been at the foundation since 2014, a group of five-member board of advisors gathers together to make these decisions twice a year around the same timeline that our community needs grants that Tiffany will talk about later as well. But what it serves the purpose for is to support music education in DeKalb County and actually across the greater Chicago metropolitan area. It's one of our rare grant programs that it serves a large area of the Chicago metropolitan area as well as our county. And grants are usually between $1,000 and $10,000. And again, it could be, it could be for music lessons. It could be for helping provide band uniforms, things like that, that can really make a difference and enhance the music education in this area. Want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
And next up, we have emergency grants, and we're really blessed to have a grant program like this that can serve the emergency needs of our nonprofits and public service agencies. They're smaller amounts, generally less than $2,000, although we have up to that in times of great need. But basically, what it does is it serves an urgent, time-sensitive funding need created by an unforeseen incident that interrupts essential services, so that it makes a nonprofit or an agency not be able to provide the services to the community that they need. And a great example in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see those are Meals on Wheels refrigerators. And when a refrigerator for Meals on Wheels goes down, they won't be able to provide crucial meals to the people that they serve. And so a refrigerator is a crucial need. And we were able to help fund a refrigerator that had broken down and make sure that they could continue to operate and serve those meals in DeKalb County.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. That was great. Thank you for providing that really valuable information. I hope all of the participants here learned something. Those of you that haven't applied for YEP or Promise grants or even emergency grants that feel that you're eligible, hopefully you feel more inspired and feel more equipped to apply in the future. So that's the purpose of this presentation, is to make sure that all of you feel that all of our grant programs that you're qualified for and eligible for are accessible to all of you. So finally, most of you are probably here to hear about the community needs grants, but hopefully everything else you've heard has been valuable and inspiring as well. But, and again, I'm so sad to see this picture, because just in 2019, we had this really, really fun grants reception where we were awarding in person all of our grant recipients for the fall 2019 community needs grant. So just thought I'd throw that picture in there, because we will get back there one day, and that was a really fun night. But I'm really, really proud to speak about the community needs grants program, and I wanted to throw some pictures in here, because one of the things that we're most proud of, and we're in the middle of doing some reflection on the grants program, the community needs grants program, and asking ourselves, like, what is our intended impact, and what makes this particular program unique from all the other programs that the Community Foundation offers. And one of the things that makes it really unique is that we very intentionally support and fund a broad array of sectors across the entire county at varying levels of support. So you can see here, we gave a $75,000 over 3-year grant to the Egyptian Theater to support their renovation project, which they've completed, and it looks amazing. And so hopefully you'll get a chance to get by there and see that, but we were really involved and invested in that project. We also support startups like Pushing Together, which is a new nonprofit in the community that provides skateboards and mentorship and training to help low-income, underserved, marginalized populations and other children have access to skateboards, and to really level the playing field and create more equity for all students. We support education organizations like the Hinckley Big Rock School agricultural building that they built. We support the Sandwich Park District and Village of Watermen, creating splash pads and helping to renovate and upgrade, water fountains and tables at the park. We also support animal environment and animal welfare organizations like TAILS, where we helped to purchase a new animal intake exam table. And so we really feel strongly and are proud of the fact that a $1,000 grant to Hinckley can be just as meaningful and impactful as a $75,000 grant to Egyptian Theater. So again, one of the primary focuses and the hallmark and what makes the Community Needs Grant Program unique and impactful is the fact that we serve organizations across the county, across a variety of sectors, and a wide range of financial support. Just last year, we supported 48 organizations, just under $250,000 total. In the fall, as we had a $700 grant that was focused on the beautification and the maintenance of Pay It Forward House. We also had a $17,000 grant that helped to purchase a hot shot vehicle for the delivery of meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities through VAC. So again, a wide range of organizations across the county supporting at varying levels, but the main purpose here is to be impactful. Just to give you some of the specifics of the Community Needs Grants Program, who are we intending to serve? We're intending to serve preferably 501c3 organizations, but we also encourage and welcome applications from schools and municipal and government entities or public service organizations. And so we welcome all of those organizations and agencies to apply. And as I mentioned earlier, churches and religious groups are also welcome to apply as long as they can demonstrate that the particular program or project has a clear community benefit. We have 2 cycles, and as a former executive director, I know how tricky that can be if you miss one of those cycles. So I think it's really important to have these dates on your calendar. We have a fall cycle that opens up July 1st and closes September 1st, and we're right in the middle of our spring cycle, which opened up in early January and will close March 1st. If you are interested in submitting a project that is over $20,000, you do have to complete a letter of inquiry, which you will find on our website by February 1st, and I'll talk about that in a second. Organizations may receive 1 grant every 12 months. So if you receive a grant in the fall cycle, you're not eligible to receive another grant in the spring, but you could come back in the fall as long as, and we don't encourage organizations to come back year over year with similar programs or projects. So this is really designed to be for specific, unique, sort of innovative type programs or projects within organizations that are designed to really be completed within 1 year. You do have to complete a grant report a year after you've received the grant. How much do we distribute? That's often a question that we get as well. We distribute approximately $250,000 over the course of a year, and so that's about $125,000 per cycle. We typically get about 4 to 5 times that in ask, but the committee is really, really committed to trying to support as many organizations as possible. So the average grant usually is in between $4,000 to $6,000, but I just talked about the range of funds that we distribute each cycle. So there is no magic bullet, there's no magic answer there. We just ask you, and there's no limit to what you can request, both on the low end or the high end, but we do encourage organizations to be very intentional and be very strategic about what they're asking for. It should be guided by the program budget and guided by your organization's ability to execute and implement the project, and that the project is sustainable. Eligible requests greater than $20,000, as I just mentioned, must complete a letter of inquiry, which can be found on the website. And there also is a greater level of due diligence that that applications over $25,000 must complete. There's a site visit that happens and some additional questions that are included in the application. Why does this program exist? And Dan mentioned it in the very beginning. Our whole purpose is to partner with nonprofits and public service organizations to improve the quality of life for the residents of DeKalb County. And we're trying to do a better job collecting that data and reporting out on that data to really be able to tell our story. And you can see on our website, Noah, I believe, is on the call here, but he's our marketing and donor services director, and he does a great job capturing those stories, telling the stories about how through our nonprofit partners and public service agencies, we're able to make an impact and improve the quality of life for our residents. So what are the priorities and emphasis? What does the committee looking for? I'm sure that's what you would love to, sort of have a peek behind the scenes of one of our committee meetings. And so we wanted to give you the 4 areas of emphasis that the committee likes for the applications to strongly, emphasize. One is that you're able to demonstrate clearly in your application that this particular program or project is responding to or addressing a clearly identified issue and or unmet need. And I think the key words here are clearly identified. And so one of the questions in the grant application is to provide evidence. What is your evidence that that this is an issue that hasn't been met? So the question is, why are you asking for this program? What is sort of your justification for it? And why are you asking for that now? I strongly encourage you, and the committee strongly encourage you to use this opportunity to use data to tell your story. The applications that typically raise to the top are able to demonstrate the need through data, whether you're using national data or local data, to be able to talk about an increase in, for instance, with obviously COVID has has caused more individuals to be food insecure. So if you're submitting an application asking for support to purchase equipment or materials to help increase your impact and scale the amount of individuals you're able to serve through your food pantry, then you want to talk about the increase in the number of individuals that have that have lost their jobs, that are now considered living below the poverty line. So there's a lot of data that can support food insecurity right now. We had an application that asked for some curriculum to support an expansion to provide counseling to younger students. And that particular applicant was able to talk about the increase in mental health issues and a study that demonstrated that individuals between the ages of 7 and 10 are now at greater likelihood and at greater risk of developing, depression and anxiety. And so that was a really good way to be able to demonstrate why the need for purchasing curriculum to be able to provide mental health services for a younger population was needed and was needed right now. So being able to demonstrate through data, both numbers and anecdotally, why it's important to respond or to address a clearly identified issue. The next is that you have to be able to demonstrate that your program or project is going to benefit the residents of DeKalb County. We're a geographically based community foundation, so our mandate and our mission, as we've talked about, is to improve the quality of life of the residents of DeKalb County. So you need to be able to speak to, and if you're not based in DeKalb County, as I mentioned earlier, you need to be able to speak to how the services will benefit the residents of DeKalb County. And so it's important, you should be able to talk about the numbers of DeKalb County residents that your particular program or project will support. Third is to be able to demonstrate evidence of collaboration amongst other organizations. We know that when organizations work collaboratively with each other, there are economies of scale, there's increased impact, there's increased effectiveness and efficiency, and it also enables organizations to advance their mission more successfully. So we encourage collaboration amongst other nonprofits or public service agencies when it makes sense. And you can talk about that in your program description, and you can also provide letters of support to demonstrate collaboration and partnership. We certainly encourage you to become members of DCMP, and that's a great vehicle and mechanism to meet other nonprofits to determine where there are synergies and opportunities to be interdisciplinary in your work. And then finally, we encourage leveraged funds and in-kind support from multiple sources. Our committee certainly likes to see when an application is submitted that you're also demonstrating that you have diverse fundraising sources, that you've already asked for funding from other agents or other funding sources and foundations and individuals, and that you have some skin in the game as well. If you're able to provide funding towards a particular project out of your operating budget, we encourage that as well. And to the extent that support from the Community Foundation allows you to leverage additional funds, which is harder to demonstrate at the point of the application, but we certainly want to see that you have been resourceful in finding funds from other sources, because as I mentioned, many of the funds and grants that we provide are not going to fully fund your project, and so the committee needs to feel confident that even if there's a partial fund of your project, that you will be able to still complete the project and execute on the goals of the project. The projects that are typically not funded are listed here. This is pretty customary. The Community Needs Grant Program, since the very beginning in 1993, has always been a program that focused on capital support. So we don't support operational costs, personnel and or administrative costs, advertising, reduction of a capital or operation debt. We obviously are a nonpartisan organization, so we don't support political campaigns. Two new initiatives this year. We also the committee voted to no longer support initiatives or projects that have already been fully funded and are asking for reimbursement. Of course, we're looking for projects that are responding to an unmet need and organizations that need our support to fulfill that need. And then finally, the committee also voted to not support re-granting organizations, and that's essentially where funds are given to an intermediary organization that then in turn gives out those funds and administers smaller subgrants. So for instance, if an organization asks us for funds, but then they turn around and give either a project or some equipment to a smaller organization as a result of the funds received from us, that's considered re-granting. And so we want the funds to go directly to the organization that we've been able to do our due diligence on and collect financial documentation and fully understand the scope of the organization and the support that's needed. And so we no longer allow organizations to come to us for funding and then they're able to support smaller organizations. We typically see this in the form of food pantries, smaller food pantries that may not have a grant writer on staff and may not have the bandwidth or capacity to write grants. And so they may go through a larger entity like a Northern Illinois Food Bank that has more infrastructure to write grants. And so, so we encourage every organization that is an eligible nonprofit or a public service organization to come to us. And with that, we also we want to minimize and remove any barriers. And so if you need support in grant writing, we're going to be offering a grant writing workshop. And so I'll show that slide in a little bit, but that's on February 9th from 2 to 3:30. And so we usually try to incorporate some of those grant writing best practices in this presentation, but we felt like it needed its own workshop. And so we're going to be offering a workshop on best practices for writing grants so that we help build the capacity of all of our organizations so they feel confident and equipped to come directly to us to request support. So those are some general guidelines with the Community Foundation, the Community Needs Grants of the Foundation. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark, who is going to talk about where and how you access the application and a couple of the documents within the application that are a very important part of the application.
Sure, thanks, Tiffany. So we gave you a lot of information today, and I hope it's not too much of like drinking through the fire hose type of situation. If it is, or even if it's not, our website is a great place to just do any of the research you're thinking about. If you're just have a ton of questions about community needs, by all means, we're here to answer those questions, but you can also go to our website. How you'd access those and how you'd eventually access the applications for these is go to our website, click the receive that's highlighted up on top, and then the grant programs, and it has a list right there. In all those web pages, it has the guidelines and description of those, and all the ones that we've funded or examples of what we've funded in the past for that. So to kind of give you an idea of what grants, if your grant program matches up with ours. So again, if you have any questions, by all means, you can contact us, but our website is a great resource as well. And I just wanted to kind of bring the project budget details sheet to focus. This is one of the most important things in almost on every single grant program that grant application that we have. It's a great resource for our board to make allocation decisions so they can kind of see the numbers in one form of what this project's going to entail. So I just, when you're applying for any grants, I just say focus on this. The description of the expense can be fairly detailed. The funding source can also be fairly detailed. And then funding status is really important for our board to know where that's at. And then we have a place for you to put any notes about what's going on, such as we'll hear back on this grant proposal in April or something like that, so that if we have any additional questions, staff or board can follow up with you to get those answers so that we can make an informed allocation decision for you. And then Tiffany just pointed out with those arrows, total project costs and amount requested from DCCF. Those are just important numbers so that we can kind of see what the scale is and then what the foundation's role in funding the project would be.
Great, thank you, Mark. Finally, we've got Betsy Hull, who is our finance director, who's going to walk through a document that we just introduced last year. And she is the author of this and creator of this, and this is an important part of the application as well. Betsy.
Thanks, Tiffany. Good morning, everyone. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I know we're just about out of time. So this is the second year that we've used the financial indicators as a resource in making grant decisions. Our committee had asked for a tool to be able to really assess the financial health of an organization. And so within the grant application, you'll find a link to an Excel document. And don't worry if that makes you sweat. It's an Excel document that you really cannot break. So there's only shaded fields that you need to complete. So there's no formulas, there's nothing like that. And there's directions on the indicators tool of where you might find this information. So most of this information is going to come from the 990. And so you should have a few years worth of your 990 handy as you're completing this, this tool. And you'll put your years across the top, and then you'll put your data where the gray shaded boxes are. So my information is on the tool itself. So my email address as well as our office phone number. And if you are having trouble with the tool itself, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you don't fall in the category of a typical 501c3 with a regular 990 reporting, you'll need to adapt to whatever tool you use. So if you use a 990 EZ, you should be able to find the same types of information on the 990 EZ. If you are a governmental entity or in the education sector and you don't have a specific budget for your area or maybe for your school district, that's something that you need to talk to Mark or Tiffany or me aside to see what budget information would be most appropriate for your organization. So again, if you have any questions about the financial indicators tool, please don't hesitate to reach out and email me, and I can help talk you through that.
Thank you so much, Betsy. She's a great resource. She loves Excel, like that's her thing. So if you have any questions or need any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to Betsy. So that concludes our presentation. I'm going to ask Mark if there are any questions. I wasn't able to monitor the chat. I know Mark and staff have been monitoring it. Are there any outstanding questions that the entire group would benefit from? And certainly we'll be sticking around out at the conclusion of this. We are going to be sending the recording. We're going to be sending the slides and a brief survey. But are there any questions that you think everyone that's on the call could benefit from hearing an answer to?
Sure. We did have a question about if you're a newer 501c3 status, if you just received that, can you apply? The answer is yes, and that we recommend if you are a brand new organization and you don't have you can't fill out this financial analysis document, I would just recommend that you contact Tiffany or I or whoever's in charge of that particular grant program and just discuss kind of the context. That really helps us when you do apply for a grant, for us to relay that context to our board so that they can make an informed decision based on that. But certainly if you have a 501c3 status, then you are eligible to apply.
Absolutely. And we don't want any of this part and not any parts of the application to intimidate any of you from applying. So if you have questions or need support, we are here for you. Thank you, Mark. Any other questions? We really appreciate your time today. Again, we know this was a lot of information. We also want to respect your time and try to get as much of it to you as quickly as possible. But we certainly encourage you to go to our website, take advantage of all of the individuals that have presented here today, and their contact information is available on this slide here. And also was at the end of each of their different presentations. So reach out to us. We're here for you. We want to partner with you. We thank you for all the ways that you're serving the residents of DeKalb County and making an impact and making a difference. And thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful rest of the day.